हाय गाइस एंड वेलकम बैक टू कॉलेज दुनिया स्टडी अब्रॉड। आज हम बात करेंगे एक बहुत ही स्पेशल गेस्ट से जिनका नाम है भरत। ही इज परस्यूइंग हिज एमएस इन बिजनेस एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन एंड मैनेजमेंट फ्रॉम द वॉरविक बिजनेस स्कूल। उनसे काफी इंटरेस्टिंग कॉन्वर्सेशन हुआ है, बट बिफोर वी मूव फॉरवर्ड डू नॉट फॉरगेट टू सब्सक्राइब टू आवर चैनल एंड हिट द लाइक बटन एज वेल। अगर आपके कोई भी क्वेश्चंस, कोई भी क्वेरीज हैं रिगार्डिंग स्टडीइंग अब्रॉड, तो हमारे डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स में फर्स्ट लिंक पर आप क्लिक करो, अपने बेसिक डिटेल्स भरो and our expert counselors will reach out to you in just 48 to 72 hours. We also have two very interesting offerings, the visa guarantee package and the offer letter guarantee package, so do check them out. Now let's move forward in our video. Hi Bharath, how's it going, man?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I am perfectly fine here. Bharath, first thing first, एक छोटा सा introduction दे दो यार अपने बारे में.
Okay, so Bharath, I did my bachelor's degree from India, so it was in architecture, and then I wanted basically a holistic idea of the managerial sides, and that's when I decided on moving to the UK. So I'm currently studying MSc in management. It's also called a Masters in Management at University of Warwick. I'm currently in a place called Birmingham. It's a half an hour journey from the university because my course just got over. So I moved to Birmingham and I'm looking to stay here for a short bit of time as well.
Okay, perfect. Why did you only choose UK? You could have gone to some other places where you could have gone to US, Canada or Australia or any place, Germany.
It's a really good question. So as I said earlier, so I did architecture, which was a 5-year course. So I compared to all the others, I already lost a year or two in my studies. So UK is I'm guessing it's the only country that provides a 1-year master's degree. So even though the course is a little tight packed, but from what I've experienced, 1 year is more than enough to study this course. And say another thing was basically compared to so US, Canada, UK obviously speaks English, so you don't actually have to learn a new language, which is actually I was never a language person, so I did not want to learn a new language. And it's one key difference that I've seen here is that people give a lot of importance to cultural fit. So basically, if you speak their mother tongue or local language, it's basically an advantage. So I did not want to be pulled back because of the language barrier. So that's another reason I chose UK. And even the ROI is more or less the same. So as I said earlier, so IIMs have almost the same fee structure as universities in the UK. So, but it's better, you get a better pay once you're here. So the ROI wise and repayment of loan wise, it was a safer bet.
Right. Right. Understood, Bharat. So you mentioned that your course is very jam-packed, right? So what do you mean by that? How is your course very jam-packed?
Okay, so my course is Masters in Management. So it's basically covering general management principles. So unlike degrees like MSc in Finance or strategy or marketing or operations, basically the degree has to cover everything, that too in a year. So the course structure is basically 3 terms, and the first term is starts in end of September till beginning of December, mid-December. So that's when they cover all the core modules like finance, operations, strategy, marketing, all these things get covered in the first term. The second term is when you have all your electives and I'd say 1 or 2 core subjects. And the third term is where you have your dissertation. So so usually what happens in other countries is you get the general courses and in the first year, and then you get to specialize. But the problem I'd say is that you don't actually get enough time to understand the course. But it is, at the end of the day, it's a general management degree, and you basically don't go into detail about anything. It's basically the periphery of each principle. So it's fairly easy being a 1-year course. I know it's a lot to process, but getting all the modules in a year might be jam-packed, but you can find your way through because it's not as intense as you see in India.
So now that you've mentioned that your course is very jam-packed, right? And you're coming from India, wherein we have courses which are for 2 years, 3 years and 4 years, right? So how difficult was it for you to get accommodated with the transition that happened in UK?
basically the Warwick University focuses on a lot of research. So that was one of the hard parts. So in India, if you're supposed to submit an assignment or something, you just do something and submit it. But here it's they give a lot of importance to in-text citation, your referencing. They have a particular style to follow. So I'd say initially when I submitted assignments, I was not getting enough marks. That is because the university was famous for research and they gave importance to quality work. So there were loopholes you could try out, but I think that was the hardest part, getting marks assignments. So that was challenging initially, but once you get the hang of it, it was fairly simple.
So I guess now let's shed some light about your university, which is the University of Warwick, right? How is the University of Warwick? Like, how is the faculty like out there? How is the culture, the environment of the university?
So Warwick is basically on the outskirts of the city called Coventry. So it's a fairly, if you look at the other universities in the UK, it's a fairly new one. I think it started around late 1960s. But it has done a pretty solid job. Now there are it's a huge campus and the state-of-the-art facilities, and there's a huge, I'd say for the bachelor's degree students, that's a huge variety of, cohort. For me personally, for master's degree, I'd say our class strength was around 200, but we had around 80 or 90 students from China and 50 or 60 students from India. So, and the rest were from here and there, so Iran, Russia, all these places. But yeah, the major chunk was from India and China. So that was kind of a letdown. But considering there was COVID and everything, and people in the UK generally don't do masters, because I haven't seen many doing masters. I think my class had just 2 or 3 people from the UK. Yeah, so I'd say for bachelor's degrees, it's very diverse. But in my class, I don't know, it was more or less what I just mentioned earlier. You talk to them during class hours, group discussions, but other than that, it's basically your priorities are very different. It's not a bachelor's degree. Basically, bachelor's degrees are minimum 3 years. So you basically come out of school and do this, as in go to uni. But here, the people are from different backgrounds. They have different priorities. So it's easier to make friends, but it doesn't go a long way, because ultimately you don't have time to go out, chill with them. It's academics and then your own focus. So.
Right. That's a good thing that you have your priorities very clear and you are aligned with your priorities. But Bharath, I hope you're chilling every now and then, because you are in the UK.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So, talking about your university, how is the faculty in your university? Like, how is the faculty different if you compare it to the Indian education system or the Indian faculties?
Okay. So I wouldn't say I'm a good judge of how the faculties are compared to India, because obviously I did a degree in architecture, so that is in nowhere related to management. But the faculty here is they're basically people who have industry experience. So they've basically worked in the industry for 15 to 20 years and then moved into education. So they have hands-on experience, and they have a lot of contact in the industry. So basically they are pretty well versed, and so the degree, the course, or the module that they cover wouldn't necessarily go into detail or while during their classes, but if you have a doubt and you approach them, they actually have in-depth knowledge. So that has been pretty useful. So even during my dissertation project and everything, the faculty that they assign to you, they'd be pretty good at what they do. And we have a very good, I think Warwick has a very good student to teacher ratio. So even then, so they usually have time even if you have doubts. So it's I'd say it's pretty solid, top notch.
All right. So now that we've covered your university and your course, let's talk about the main thing, which is the expenses. What has been the total cost of tuition that you for your course?
Okay. So the fee keeps on changing. So I joined in 2021. My fees was around, let's say, 30,950 GBP. So that's just the tuition fees. So if you look at the expenses in general, so basically it's three main pockets. One is the tuition fee, the other one is your rent for your accommodation, then is your living expense. So I'd say anything. So 30,000. The fees is a part, you know that it's a prerequisite, so you know that. But if your rent is around 300 or 400, the other expense that is also fixed once you get to know the rent. But the other one is around 200 to 250 pounds per month. So for groceries, you would have to cook. You wouldn't be able to Swiggy or do things that we do in India, because really expensive here. So the delivery charge would be around £4. That's like 400 rupees. So for one delivery, so that would be ideal. So you'd obviously have to cook on your own. But even then, even if you eat out thrice or four times a week, you can cover it in around £250 a month. So it's basically a monthly expense would be a rent plus 250 to 300 pounds.
Okay, all right. So the thing that you were talking about, which is the fixed cost of your tuition. What is actually the fixed cost of your tuition right now?
So I haven't checked the university page. So basically, my cohort had 30,950 as their fixed fee. But I'm guessing people who joined this year, this September, 22 September, would have somewhere around 33,000. I would have to check these. So basically, they increase the fees every. That is like a recurring thing that happens here.
Right. Of course. So while you were doing your MSc in management, where were you staying? What was your accommodation? Were you staying in the university accommodation?
No. So I actually, so you actually go to the page once you get the admission, and you have to give out 8 priority-wise, hostels or uni accommodations. So I got one, but at the end of the day, I found friends and I moved out. So basically, it's cheaper to stay outside, rent a house with your friends than stay at uni accommodation. So uni accommodation would start at around 60,000 a month, 6,000 rupees a month. But I was able to, me along with three of my friends, we moved into a house that was like a 15-minute bus ride from the university. It's like fairly close by, but we were spending around £300 a month. So that was the difference. So you can just cut half of your rent by staying outside.
That's very interesting. I mean, you were cutting 50% of the expenses, right?
Yeah, but then there's also basically 3 categories of rooms that you get. One studio, which has the attached kitchen and everything. Then the ensuite, we have an attached bathroom. So 4 of us were sharing 2 bathrooms. So that was as in we knew each other. So 1 bathroom for 2 people, that was pretty fair for us. So that is one of the reasons why we got the £300 rate. But if you need an ensuite and all these things, the rate can go up to, if you're staying outside, it can go up to 450 to 500 a month, but never as expensive as the university accommodation.
All right, perfect. So if I would ask you, like, do you have to suggest a study abroad student who has just landed in UK? What would you suggest them? Where should they live? Like, will you suggest them that they should go for the university accommodation, or just straight away go outside and live in a private house?
So it'll depend on their priority. So you basically see a lot of people coming into Warwick. So you have a lot of billionaires studying here. You have a lot of millionaires. So you have people like barely scraping through. You have people who are looking for part-time from day one. You have people who are comfortable and just need a job. You have people who are going back. So there are people who just come for the degree, for a 1-year degree, and then go back to India. So all these people have different priorities. And I'd say, so it depends on the amount of money that a person can spend actually. So if it's below £500 a month, just look for one outside. But if you have somewhere around 500 to 800, you can live comfortably in the university. So basically, living in university has its own advantages. You get to speak to a lot of people who are not from your class. You get to mingle with them. You get to go to parties or network with them. So networking is basically a huge part of basically you being there. It's a management degree. You have to network. So when you look at networking, uni accommodation is always better. You get to see a lot of perspectives. You get to talk to a lot of people. But when you're in your house, you're just amongst your friends. You don't get that opportunity. But
Right. So if I talk about the details of the university accommodation, what are the things that get provided in the university accommodation? What are facilities that you get?
So basically, as I mentioned, there's the studio, ensuite, and the other rooms where you share your bathroom. So that is pretty standard. It depends on what you want. Other than that, each university has its own kitchen. As an accommodation has its own kitchen. I'm guessing they'll give you a microwave, an oven, everything you'd pretty much require. A washing machine, a dryer, all these things are standard. You'd have everything. You wouldn't have to buy any machinery. Basically, you just have to get your own, let's say, plates or pan and spoon and fork and stuff. Plates, I guess. Other than that, everything is pretty much provided. You can just wash your clothes, dry it, and bring it back to your room. Shower and everything. So pretty much. Everything's pretty much standard. Just the size of the room or the size of the kitchen might change.
So when you talk about the living expenses, of course, rent is something that is a fixed expense that you will incur, right?
Yeah.
And I'm talking about the private housing kind of thing, right? So apart from your rent, apart from your groceries, what else can you maybe spend money on, or a student who's trying to pursue his studies in the foreign land? What else are the factors that will come into the living expenses?
Basically, if you can make around £800 a month. So that's like if your rent is $400 or $450 and your groceries are $250, you're basically saving £100. So during the winter, you would probably buy puffer jackets or bomber jackets. Then there's also a road network here is pretty fast. So you can actually, for a weekend, you can just go to London in 1 hour, chill there, come back. Or you can come to Birmingham, which is half an hour. Or you can go to Manchester or Liverpool. You can go watch a football match. A lot of things to do if you're doing a part-time. But there are people who go for football matches a lot. There are people who go visit London for a day. They go in the morning, visit London, come back in the evening because they don't have to stay there. So in that way, Coventry is pretty well connected. You can go to Edinburgh, you can go to Wales, all these places. So you can rent a car and go. So all these are things that people actually do. So once in a month is pretty, that's pretty doable.
All right. So now let's talk about your admission process, Bharath. How did you apply for this particular course and this particular university, which is the University of Warwick, right? Okay. What was your process like when you were sitting back in India?
Okay, so initially, I tried to get into IIM. So it's fairly hard compared to getting into a UK degree university. So I had a couple of universities in mind. So I joined in September 2021. So I applied somewhere around September to November of 2020, like 1 year prior to the course start date. So I had colleges like London Business School, London School of Economics, Imperial and Manchester alongside Warwick. But because I was looking for an MIM degree, as in Masters in Management, London Business School, London School of Economics and Imperial had a better ranking. But I did not want to stay in London for some personal reasons. So, but I applied to London Business School and London School of Economics. I did not apply to Imperial. I applied to Warwick. And I was planning on applying to Imperial and Manchester after that, but I got into Warwick. So that was the pecking order, I'd say. Basically, university that I wanted to, pursue the degree in. And so all these universities are part of the Russell's group. I'm pretty sure you know what the Russell's group is. So I'd say Russell's group universities, top rank Russell's group universities, management degrees are the most expensive in the UK. Of course, MBA is much more expensive, but after that, if you look at management degrees, that's the most expensive. And so for Warwick, I needed recommendations. One was professional, one was academic. An SOP, that was statement of purpose. So that was around 1,000 words. There was no interview process or anything of that sort. You just had to apply. It was a rolling admission. So it was a first come, first serve. So I'd say it's better to start around October or November, because I think Manchester and Warwick has the same process. I don't know if it has changed over the year, but London Business School and London School of Economics, they have a specific set of questions that you have to answer. It's not just submitting an SOP. So I had to work on all these individually and look at the timeline on how I could tackle all the admission deadlines. So that was how the whole process was.
Right.
I had to start
Okay.
3 to 4 months prior. Yeah. So around May, I started looking into LO or SOP, all these things, contacting faculties, professors. But yeah, it was a 3 or 4 month period and window where I tried to crack it.
All right. So when it comes to the admission process, does the UK or the University of Warwick in general has any eligibility criteria if you want to pursue masters from there?
Yep. So I forgot to mention about IELTS. So that is an exam that you have to give. There's also GMAT, but Warwick and Manchester, they don't require you to give a GMAT. But yeah, I think IELTS, there's a criteria. I think it's above 7 and above score that you should, the average score they should have. But even that keeps on changing every year. So it's fairly there in the entry requirements of the Warwick page. It's a IELTS is pretty much the only criteria that they put forward. And so obviously Masters in Management is basically for people who don't have much experience. So that's like up to 0 to 2 years of experience. There are special cases where people are allowed to do the degree, but it's basically it's an MBA for people who are not experienced. So that's what MIM is. So if you look at the entry requirement for an MBA, internationally you have to have 2 years of work experience to do an MBA. That's why IIMs provide PGPM, it's postgraduate program in management. So that's essentially what MIM is. But yeah, so that is, I think, the 2-year cutoff and the IELTS one. That was the 2 entry requirements Warwick had.
All right. So when it comes to the admission process, are there any important list of documents that you can share with the viewers?
So what I basically did was I went on the application portal. I filled in everything. Even you have to have your CV, SOP, and the 2 LORs, and your IELTS basically result. So these are the documents that you actually share. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Anything about the previous mark sheets or something like that? Do you also have to showcase your mark sheets as well?
I to be honest, I don't remember, but I think I had to share my transcript with them for my bachelor's degree. Yep, I think I needed. Yeah, thank you for asking, because I actually missed out on that. Yeah, I think I did send it was either my consolidated grade card or my transcript. So I had to send across one of these things. Yeah.
All right. Perfect. So when we talk about the admission process, we all know that studying abroad can be very expensive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So about your funds, are you sponsoring yourself, or have you taken any educational loan?
So I did take an education loan. So it was with SBI. I'll have to start repaying in 3 to 4 months. So yeah.
All right. So let's talk about the study loan a bit more. How should a candidate go about it, and what are the interest rates that we are looking at?
Okay. So how would you go about it? So basically, you get your offer letter, and then you're asked to pay an initial fee so that might be from somewhere from 1 lakh to 1.5 lakhs just to confirm your seat, and then so after by around May or June, they send you a thing called CAS, confirmation of acceptance. It's a number. So you can actually start your loan process once you get your CAS. But before that, there are things that you can actually do. You can send them across the fee structure. So UK government has a fee structure. So it's a specific amount per month in London, and it's a specific amount per month when you're outside London. So that is what you're supposed. That's the visa requirement. So for your loan, you submit your tuition fee document as well as this. And if you're putting in a collateral, the bank sends over a person to actually check the worth of the property or land or FD or whatever that you're putting in as collateral. So basically you can start sorting all those things out before you get your cash. And by then, so they can actually start a case with your loan request and everything. And then once you get your cash, you can actually, move forward with it. So, and then if you are not able to self-fund yourself, once you get your loan approved, that's when you can show that document and go for your visa. So that's, but I don't think you'll ever get 100% loan. It's usually 80% of the total amount. So you'll have to put in, it basically happens simultaneously. So if you need to pay 100 rupees, the bank will give you 80 rupees. You have to put in 20 rupees and then pay. It's not like if you have a loan sanctioned for 30 lakhs and you need 20 lakhs, it's not like the bank will give you 20 lakhs. So basically whatever the margin is, you have to put in that amount in the bank. So that's how the process works. So that was also a confusing part for me initially, but yeah, that's how the thing works. So there's nothing you can do about it.
Right. I'm sure this would have given a lot of clarity to the folks who are worried about the process of education loan and how the banks actually work around it. All right.
Yeah.
So now let's pivot towards the visa process. How difficult was it for you to get the UK student visa?
I applied during the COVID period, so it was a bit hard to get an appointment. But the whole process is fairly simple. You just have to make sure you have the right documents. That is one of it would be the CAS from your university, basically stating that they're sponsoring you. Then if you're taking an education loan, the approved statement of your loan, and the so basically and the rest of the money, if it's like if you're showing your bank account statement or your FD, it will have to be in the account for 28 days. You can't move it. So that statement, and basically you go with your certificates, your passport, your 10 standard, 12 standard mark sheets and everything. And you get so there are 3 options, I guess. It's the standard, priority, super priority. I forgot the exact jargon, but yeah, you get your visa in 2 weeks. It's priority, I think it's 5 days, and then there's another one where you get it Monday. So all that is pretty simple. It's the hardest part, I'd say, would be the education loan. That's the headache that I had.
All right. So if we club everything in the admission process, which is you researching about the university and the programs, you collecting your important documents, you figuring out your education loan, and you also executing your visa process, right? If we club everything, what is the timeline that we are looking at, and when should a candidate start applying for his or her study abroad journey for the UK?
So I'd say it's not a continuous process. There are times when you get busy, then there'll be months, 3 or 4 months where you don't have pretty much anything to do. So for example, once you get your offer letter, if that's around January, you pretty much have nothing to do up until May, because you'll have to get a cash or whatever that the university has to send you. So ideally, I'd say you should apply 1 year prior to the commencement of your course. So basically, if it's 22 September you're looking at, or 23 September you're looking at, you have to start right now. So only then can you actually. So basically, the logic behind this is that suppose I get into Warwick. So I have an architecture degree. So if there's another person looking to get into Warwick 3 months later, even if he's better than me, they won't want him because they already have somebody from architecture. Why would they want 2 people from architecture? They can have a more diverse cohort. So applying as early as possible is very important. And then the loan process around 2 months, 3 months. Loan visa go hand in hand. So I'd say 3-4 months for that, and the application process 3-4 months. So, but it's not continuous. So that's why I was saying that earlier. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Perfect, Bharath. So now that you are in UK, you are already pursuing your masters, and let's talk about the part-time jobs and the full-time jobs that are present in the UK.
Okay.
Did you do any part-time job while you were pursuing your program?
Um, basically, my priorities were different. I wanted a full-time job. So it's the thing that it works very different to what happens in India. There's no campus placements here. So that is the hard part. So you basically in India you used to companies coming in, just picking you out from a classroom, so giving you a job. But here you have to apply on your own. So that's a fairly difficult task, I'd say, getting to know what happens in the UK, how to talk to interviewees and interviewers and everything. So part-time was not in the equation for me, but more, I'd say 90% of my friends do part-time, and it's fairly easy to land one. But the only part-time I did was for a marketing firm. That was for 2 weeks. So basically just to get to know what the system was, how you had to talk to people and everything. So that I had done a marketing internship. Other than that, it was basically apply, study. Yeah.
All right. So, but if I ask you to go in detail about the part-time jobs, what are the part-time job opportunities for students? Like, what places can you go and ask for a job, and what kind of jobs would you expect?
If I'm being 100% honest, you can't expect a white-collar job. Basically, it'll start with Pizza Hut. It can start with Domino's. It can be serving. This can be in a 5-star hotel as well. Then there's also this app called Unitemps, where they give temporary roles to university students. So that can be university ambassador, where you just have to walk around, make sure that the desk and benches are in place, switch off the lights. So basically a range of work available for part-time, and you get paid around £10 an hour. So that's like the minimum requirement. So they can't pay you anything less than that. There's also, you can go to grocery stores, you can stay there. Basically easy work, but yeah, we won't be used to it, but that's what people do here. So even initially I had friends who were like, I can't do this, this is below me, or this is beneath me. But basically nobody sees it that way here. Everybody sees it as a way to earn money. So there are a wide variety of jobs. Yeah. It can be quite overwhelming in the beginning, but yeah.
Right. And what is the maximum or the minimum time that a student can work on a part-time basis in UK?
Yeah. So while term time, it's 20 hours a week. So 20 hours that's why I said 80 hours a month. Around 80 hours. That's like 80,000 rupees. So
right.
That's how this thing is. But for bachelor's degree students, they do have vacations. So they can do a full time during their vacation. But for us master students, since the course is packed already, we don't have much time to do extra work.
All right. So what if a student wants to work more than just 20 hours a day, or 20 hours a week?
So I'd advise against it, because it can hinder your visa application in the future. So if you're earning more than that, that basically ticks a red flag. So when you're applying for a graduate route visa or anything of that sort, or looking for a skilled worker visa, that can be a problem. So I'd advise against it, but there are people who do that. But yeah, it's not advised at all.
All right. So to all our viewers who are trying to get into UK, do not try and act smart. You do not have to work more than just 20 hours, right?
Yeah.
All right, Bharath. So now let's talk about the full-time job opportunities that are present in UK. What would be your process around it now that your course is almost complete, right?
Yeah.
What kind of jobs are you looking at? Where are you finding these jobs, and what's the process that's going on around it?
Okay. So I was able to land 2 jobs. One was with PwC. That was as a graduate management consultant, and another one was with NatWest. It's an anti-money laundering analyst. So the full-time jobs is basically, so they have 4 or 5 rounds for the selection process. The first one is basically your application process, where you fill in the details and everything. Second one is the analytical ability, where they test your logical reasoning, maths and everything. Third one is a situational judgment test. So that's basically how you would, you're just rearranging things on what actions you would prioritize on in a given situation. Then the fourth round is basically a pre-recorded interview of sorts. Basically, they give you a question and you get 30 seconds to prepare and answer for 2 minutes. And the fifth stage is the face-to-face interview. So it's basically a long process, and it takes time to crack each and one of these things. Basically, you might get kicked out in round 3, so you'll have to sit down, look at where you went wrong. And there are like a lot of companies that are giving out graduate roles, but there are equal number of students who want these jobs. So it's a fair fight, but it's a long fight. So it took me time. I started applying for full-time jobs when I reached in September, but I was only able to land one around May or June. So basically, it was a long process. You have to think about the studies alongside job application. But yeah, there are people who land jobs and there are people who find it very hard to land jobs. It just depends on the amount of effort you're ready to put in, and you're basically how you prioritize things. End of the day, there are full-time jobs actually, but it's entirely up to you.
And so what is the annual package that you're looking at after completing masters from the UK and from the University of Warwick?
Since my cohort has 0 to 2 years of experience, it's a very young. So all of us look at entry level jobs. So that's basically graduate denotes entry level. So basically, I'd say somewhere between 28,000 to 40,000 pounds. Depends on the role. Depends on a lot of things. But yeah, if it's a big four or a very established company, your pay might be a little less. Startups usually give more pay, but startups do not sponsor you. So it's like a fine line where if you want to get sponsored, you would have to go with a bigger company, and but your pay might be low. But you can actually start applying for a PR only once you've converted into a sponsored visa. So it's all bits and pieces here and there. So depends on what you want.
All right. So you must have also been in contact with your seniors, right?
Okay. So that is a major drawback that UK has. Since it's a 1-year course, so basically I've moved out of Warwick or Coventry. I'm at Birmingham. So there's no way that my juniors or the next batch has a way of contacting me. So, but if it's a 2-year course, basically you would be still in uni, your juniors come in, so you can pass on the thing. So that was a hard thing for me to find. LinkedIn was an effective tool, but even then you don't get to talk to everyone. So you might find 1 or 2 people instead of the 200 people that you can actually talk to. So that is a major drawback that I've faced. But yeah, end of the day you can manage even if you don't. But yeah.
Right. And I think this drawback has only been for you because it was a 1-year course only. Had it been a 2-year course or more than that, you might have had a lot of touch with your seniors.
Yeah, but even then, they have a very solid external affairs team and a career service team. They're pretty good, and they are very effective in getting you referrals from companies. So I'd say I did not use the career service all that much, but you should try and use it from day one. That would be my advice, I'd say, if you're joining.
And about this whole career service, is it like a paid thing that the university offers, or do you have to pay some extra fees about it?
No, it's entirely free. So it's basically, I'd say there are 2 management schools within Warwick. So the one I studied under was Warwick Business School. So Warwick Business School has a careers team, and they're entirely devoted just to help you land a job. But the thing is, you have to find the job that you want to apply to, and it's not like they'll spoon feed you stuff. You'll have to prepare and go, and they'll tell you what you're lacking or what your mistakes are, and not the other way around.
So now let's talk about your future plans. What are you now aiming at? Are you going to stay back in UK, or are you going to move somewhere out? And how are you thinking about the whole repayment of your education loan?
So as I said earlier, so I landed a job. So I start in a week. So that's with NatWest. So I'm getting sponsored. I'm going through the visa, changing the whole situation. So I'm shifting to a skilled worker visa, and basically that I think that be for 3 to 5 years. I'm not exactly sure. I'm just at the last stage where I'll get to know it in a couple of days. But yeah, so I'm shifting towards a skilled worker visa because my employer is willing to sponsor me. But if that was not the case, I could have actually looked for a job. I could have stayed until January. Once my degree results are out, I could have applied for a graduate visa, which lets me stay here for 2 more years. So basically, if you're not getting sponsored, that's how much time you would have to get sponsored. So some people, what they do is they land a job. They do not want to get sponsored. They take the graduate visa and they jump jobs. When you're jumping through jobs, your salary increases considerably. So they do that. By the end of the 2 years, they get sponsored. But yeah, so that's a good way to increase your salary. But then you'll again have to be in the skilled worker visa bracket for 5 years to get the citizenship or a PR. So even then, it's all about the priorities that you have.
Right. So you are aiming for a PR of UK, right?
Yeah. So yeah, in effect, yeah.
All right. So, all right, Bharath. Then I guess I've asked you enough questions that were there in my mind, and I'm sure this whole conversation has been very fruitful and very insightful for our viewers. However, now this is one personal question that I would want to ask you. Do you miss the Indian food back in the UK?
Yeah, I do actually. But the thing is, there are a lot of Indian societies here. So even in Coventry, there's a place called Force Hill Road. So there you get all the Indian groceries and you get all the Indian food there. And there's also a very good, it's a local cuisine. So I'm from Kerala, so there's a very good Kerala hotel there near Warwick. So I'd say even though I miss food, if I'm craving for it, I can actually go anywhere. There's a lot of cuisines, so but it's also expensive. It's not like you can eat it 3 times a day. But yeah.
Right. All right. So before we conclude this whole interview, Bharath, do you have any parting notes for our audience? Do you have any advice for the students who are trying to study abroad and are aspiring to study abroad?
See if this is what you want. See if you actually want to move out of India, because it's not a walk in the park. It is difficult, but it has its own ups and downs, highs and lows. So basically, think it through. Don't make a rash decision. Basically, this is something that will affect your life. I think that's pretty much everything I have to say, I guess.
All right, perfect, Bharath. Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for taking out time for me, and I hope that you have a good life ahead in UK. And yeah, man, have a good day ahead. Thank you so much.
Yep, you too. Yes, let's hope we can stay connected.
Yes, absolutely.